A few months ago, I decided to build my own custom offset guitar based on the Fender Mustang. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you the entire experience from the beginning until the end, as well as some really helpful tips if you're interested in doing something similar on your own, some tools that saved me so many headaches along the way, and a few mistakes that I made that you might potentially learn from. The inspiration for this project was to combine two of my favorite short scale offsets, the Fender Jaguar and the Fender Mustang. Previously, Fender released a Jag-Stang, but that really didn't tick the boxes for me. I wanted something a little bit more traditional with a slight twist to it. Now, I'm not the first person to design a guitar similar to this one. Probably best known as Belinda Butcher of My Bloody Valentine. She was a really similar instrument that a lot of people have built guitars based on. But I had a few little things that I wanted to do differently. The traditional Fender Mustang's electrical layout, consisting of two single coil pickups, each connected to their own individual three-way slider switches, one master volume and one master tone, were things I wanted to keep for this build. I think they're perfect. I love how intuitive it is with the different style of switching and the quirky sounds I can get out of it. The main thing I wanted to change was the vibrato. Normally, a Fender Mustang is going to come with a dynamic vibrato, and I really like that unit, but I don't love it. I love the offset vibrato that you'll find on a Fender Jaguar or a Fender Jazzmaster. After deciding this was exactly what I wanted to build, I knew I had to order the body first. This was the part of the guitar that was going to take the longest for me to receive because they had to make it, they had to paint it, and they had to ship it to me. I ended up buying one from Guitar Mill because they have an awesome reputation, and they also build Mario Martin guitars, and I've played some of those. They're awesome. The body I chose was unfinished, which was ideal for me because I had a really specific color in mind that I wanted for this project. Mario Martin told me it was going to take 9 to 12 weeks turnaround time before it would end up in my hands, and that left me with all the time I needed to source the rest of the parts for this project. Next, and in my opinion, the most important part of any guitar was finding the right neck. If you've ever shopped for a Fender Mustang neck, you would know you don't have a whole ton of options. But fortunately for me, as fate would have it, about 2 weeks after I placed the order for the body, I received a guitar from Japan, a Fender Char signature model Mustang that I bought in to do a demo of and then to resell. The second that I took this guitar out of the case and felt the neck, I knew that this was the exact one that I wanted to use for this project. Everything was coming together perfectly, but I knew that there were still some parts that I would need, starting off with the electronics. I love Lollar pickups. Every Fender instrument that I have has a set of Lollars in them, so I knew that I wanted to put them in this guitar as well. For the neck, I went with the regular wine Mustang, but for the bridge, I went with the slightly more aggressive Mustang Special. And just to make things a little bit easier on myself, I ordered a wiring harness from Gun Street Wiring, another shop that's set up in the Pacific Northwest. For hardware, all I needed was the bridge and the vibrato, since the neck already had the tuners on them, and I kept the neck plate and the neck screws from the Char Mustang. I ended up going with the Stay Trem bridge and the Fender American Vintage vibrato unit. After several weeks of waiting, I finally got the email that I was anxiously awaiting from Guitar Mill. The body was finished and it was shipped out to me. I couldn't wait to get started. The quality of the finish is outstanding, and now it was officially go time. This is the part where if you're thinking about doing something similar, you should really start paying attention. Since the body came undrilled to just drop in the offset vibrato, there was one essential tool that I knew I was going to need that I didn't already have, and I cannot stress how vital this tool is for a project like this: a drill press. The drill press is an invaluable tool if you're building guitars from scratch, because it doesn't matter how straight you think you could drill a hole, you gotta get it right, and this takes all the guesswork out of it. I ended up selling my PRS SEC E24 in order to buy it, and even if I never use it again, it's done its job with this build. The other tool that saved me at multiple points during this build was this rounded file. Here, I used it to slightly enlarge the bridge thimble routes to fit in the US spec size thimbles. After I popped in the thimbles, the next step was to test fit the neck to make sure it would drop right in. It didn't. In order to make this work, I sanded using 400 grit paper, trying my best to keep things as even as I could, enlarge the neck pocket just enough so it fit the neck. If you ever find yourself in this situation, go slow, check often, and do not rush. Eventually, you'll get where you need to be. It took me about a half hour, but eventually I did manage to get it to fit. Now it was time to attach it to the guitar, as I would need the two connected in order to properly place the vibrato in the right location. Before putting the vibrato unit onto the body, I put down painter's tape in order to protect the finish and provide an extra area for me to mark off with a Sharpie where I would be using the drill press. A trick I used to make sure the string spacing wasn't totally off was to string the guitar with just a little bit of tension so I could ensure the vibrato was going to be straight and the alignment of the neck was also going to be good. The actual drill time was really quick. It only took about 15 minutes for all the holes, but before I got started with that, I actually put some tape on the drill bit itself to make sure I wasn't going to be going too deep or too shallow into the body. Before installing the vibrato, I made sure to run a ground wire from the inside of the cavity that touches the base plate of the vibrato unit that then connects to the tone pot. It was at this point I realized there was one other problem I was going to have to solve. Do you see how angled the screws were coming out of the pickguard and into the pickups themselves? That's not going to work, so I needed to find a way to fix this. I was able to fix this using a tool I used very early on in this project, the rounded file. Following the same process of going slow and test fitting over and over again, eventually I was able to enlarge the holes enough so that the pickups would fit perfectly and the screws were straight. Now, while the file really did save the day for me, it actually resulted in a little bit of damage in the guitar that was completely my fault. I made a rookie mistake. I forgot to put my phone on the silent. The thing blasted. I kind of jumped a little bit, lost grip of the file, and it landed right on the face of the body, causing its first ding. Kind of a bummer, but it definitely won't be the last ding this guitar gets. After installing all the hardware and the electronics and testing to make sure that everything was working as intended, all that remained was to string the guitar up, do basic setup stuff, and see if the guitar would potentially need a shim. It didn't take long for me to realize I was going to need a shim. I started off with a .25 and eventually settled on a .5. While I had the neck off this last time, I decided to take a little bit more relief out of it. I reassembled the guitar and did some final basic setup things. I adjusted the pickup heights, the bridge height, and made sure it was intonated. Now, it was finally time for me to be able to sit with this guitar, play through my favorite amp, and see just how good it came out. This project came out way better than I had anticipated. This was my first time doing something to this extent. I've built a lot of parts casters in the past before, and there's definitely room for improvement, especially with the setup of this guitar, but man, It feels awesome to play. It's so lightweight. It stays in tune great. I just love the way it sounds. I love the way it feels. I love the way it looks. And I love the fact that I pieced this thing together. And at the end of the day, this is my guitar. There was one part of the process that I intentionally skipped because I wanted to test something. And if you're familiar with Fender offsets, you might have already been thinking, did he just skip shielding the cavities entirely? Yeah, I did. I didn't use any copper and I didn't use any paint as far as shielding goes to make sure that it would be as quiet as possible. I had grounds running from the electronics to the control plate, and I also had a ground from the base plate of the vibrato going to the tone control as well. Going through the Z, I was using the way huge gauge drive with a whole bunch of gain. It wasn't that bad. I was actually kind of surprised. I was like, damn, considering I did not use anything to kind of quiet it down on the inside, this thing is pretty damn quiet. And I was impressed with that, but in a later video, I am going to add shielding paint. I'll go through the process of doing it, and I'll show you in case you're interested. But as it stands, that was a big surprise. Perhaps the most important part of this, and the real reason why I wanted to make this video, was to tell you how much fun this was. It's such a gratifying experience from start to finish. You have the vision, you have the idea, you slowly start to accumulate the parts, you're waiting for other parts before you can actually dive in. It's not an instant gratification kind of thing, and when you do get it, and it actually comes out decent and playable and it sounds good, man, it feels incredible. Couple of things before we hit the road for today. Thank you for making it this far into the video. Your support really does mean a lot to me. Number two, we will be doing a dedicated video where we go over all the different sounds. We did not hit every single thing that we could do, and honestly, I just wanted to play aggressive. I don't know why, because a lot of people that play these styles of guitars, they like to play aggressive. I'm traditionally more of a clean player, but I was just in a mood. I was just in a mood. And lastly, that ties into my final point. If you're somebody who wants a modified version of an offset guitar, specifically the Jaguar or the Mustang, please do something like what I did. Buy a body that is routed the way you want it to be for the pickups and has the vibrato that you want already on it so that you can just make your own. Stop destroying vintage Fender American-made instruments and finally made Japanese-made instruments. The world does not need any more mangled Fender offsets. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take it easy.